In this module, we're going to do survival analysis. I call it a tragedy in two parts because we're going to start in Excel and we're going to finish in R. There are probably better places to do it that are more straightforward, but they cost money. So we're going to stick with the things that we have and try to run from there. And I'm going to start at the beginning, which is getting the data on coronavirus and looking at percent survival using pivot tables and drill downs. And hopefully you'll get an idea of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And then for the actual analysis, we're going to bounce over into R. I'm going to keep it simple in R. There are some libraries in R that are very, very good for doing survival analysis, but they tend to change with each version in how you do them. So in terms of writing a class, I'm going to stick with the fairly basic versions, which is going to require a little bit more code than I usually use, but it should work and continue to work as time goes on. So the first thing we're going to do is bounce back over to Excel. So we want a blank Excel sheet that we're going to work in, be in A1. We're going to go to data and from the web, but we have to get the address from the web. We're going to go to Google and do NYT, GitHub, COVID-19, and this should come up, and we'll go to the COVID-19 data USA counties, and we'll go to view raw, and we will grab that URL, and we'll come back here to from web in Excel, and paste that URL into the from web, and it will take a minute to bring it back in. We've been over this in a few modules, but I continue to go through it so the modules stand alone. Click load, and in a moment we should have our data. Now this data is not in any shape or form for us to use in terms of doing survival analysis. It needs to be in a couple of different forms for us to do that, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So the first step in the transformation that we need to do is create our co-state FIPS variable, and that's going to equal B2 ampersand underscore ampersand C2 ampersand in quotes underscore ampersand D2, and this fills it all the way down, and we're going to use this to pivot on to create a pivot table out of this variable, and that is going to allow us to do every county by every date, and that will be useful for finding out what the time till there was a coronavirus infection in each county. We will eventually link that to other data so we can see if there were particular political or social or cultural factors that affected that time to infection. But time to infection or time to event is the kind of analysis that we're going to do here. It's extremely useful. It's not taught very often outside of medical schools or public health schools, and it probably should be, but we're going to play with it a little bit here as we get going. All right, we're going to go to Insert and Pivot Table, and OK. And we want the counties along the bottom, so we're going to do co-state FIPS for rows. We're going to do the dates along the top, and then we're going to do cases for values. Now we don't much see anything here because they're all blanks, and then we start to see some data over here. And we start at 121, and we can leave that for the analysis that we're doing now. Usually I chop out a few, but we're going to leave that for now. So I'm going to select this whole thing except the grand total. And I'm going to copy that. I'm going to create a sheet. And I'm going to paste values. All right, and you see our dates turned into numbers here. We need to go back and turn those into dates. The other thing we need to do is fill in all of our empty cells with zeros. And we'll do that, filling the empty cells with zeros first here. And we will do that by going to Home, select and replace, replace. We're going to replace with 0 the blanks, but the option is we have to match the entire cell contents or it'll make a mess of it. And I'm going to hit replace all and then pause because this is going to take a little bit of time. All right, once it's done, I can go ahead and close this. Made a lot of replacements, and now I'm going to save this so I don't have to go back and do any of this. And instead of book 1, I'm going to call it Excel Survival Corona. And that's the first step. The second step we're going to do now, we're going to insert a row up above. I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to right click, format the cells, and make them a date. Okay, and we're good to go, but as we have in the past, we're going to make sure those stay as a date and don't get turned into something else by doing equals D ampersand text B2, and then we're going to put the format we want that in, and it's in quotes. So I'm going to do DD underscore, oops, SS, that's not helpful. I could probably skip the year here and make it easier, make it shorter, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to finish that, and when I hit a return, that's 21-1. So is that useful? 20, should I switch that? Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do MMDD. And I'm not using the slashes because slashes cause problems in the R's, but I'd also, maybe I want an underscore before the D. So I'm going to put an underscore right after the D. So that looks a little better. All right, so I have date 01/21. And I'm just going to copy that across to 5/8, which is yesterday as I'm doing this. It'd be different for you as you're doing it because it'll be a different day. I'm going to do a Control C, go down one, and paste values. Okay, now I can delete that top row to get me where I want to go, and I'm going to change row labels to co-state FIPS. All right, so now the data is pretty much like I want it for doing a few more things, and I'm going to pause right now.